Hey everybody, we are back. It is Wednesday, November 16th, and we are back at our scheduled time. So I have no idea where it is you are, but here in Pekin, Illinois, it is cold.
And snowy to say the least.
Yeah, got a little bit of that. Had to go out buy a heater to keep my room here nice and warm because yeah, it's pretty cold out there, and the furnace isn't keeping up.
Yeah, it
So
might be the furnace.
oh, it's definitely the furnace, but
Oh, now we all know it's always the furnace. But we got a good show for you all tonight. We're going to be, and I forgot to mention, I'm Jory Rowe. I'm George's show partner here, and we're going to talk after some news. The first half hour of the show, we're going to talk about old game shows and hosts. And for a half an hour. And then the next topic for the second half hour will be famous and old and new candy and confections. So get your sweet tooth ready, and here we go.
all right. And so yeah, so we do have some cool things going on here, some things in the works. I am working on getting a merch store off the ground. No telling when that's going to happen, but I'm pretty excited to get that going. And we got some other things in the works too. So just stay tuned. We'll keep you updated as things are happening. So, but yeah, for now, let's talk about the tech news that we usually talk about.
And this news is definitely technical, so get ready.
Well, I think it's more gonna be like Twitter again. Twitter and Elon Musk. Well, every time I look up for the news, right? This is who comes up. This is what's like every single
It's
week.
main headline Elon Musk and Twitter. And in my personal opinion, I don't really give a blankety blank.
I mean, I'd love to like talk about other things, but like this is like the biggest stuff right now that you need, that should be talked about. So like, let's see here. Let's find the first one here. So there was a former Facebook security chief that told Elon Musk on Twitter to stop firing engineers for correcting Musk's clear misstatements. So what we're talking about is just a few days ago, uh, Musk had made a post on Twitter, something along the lines of it was about the Android Twitter app, and essentially saying, well, this app is really slow because it does 1,000 bullcrap things just to load the timeline. I can't remember the exact verbiage. You could look it up. But that's essentially what he was saying. And so right after he had posted that, one of his engineers that is now former because of this says basically called him out and said, "No, you're wrong. You should be asking questions before you start posting." So, yeah, he Musk fired him, and so I mean, there's definitely some mixed
From
views on this.
somebody jumping the gun, basically,
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it's very clear that not everybody at Twitter, if anybody, is truly that happy about working for Musk, which is going to be our next point. But we'll get there, right? But it's like just because you have to remember if you're working for Twitter, Musk is still your boss, and you should not publicly correct your boss like that. You should take him aside and ask, say, hey, just so you know, you were wrong. It's the polite and professional thing to
just
do.
out of cordiality.
It's like it doesn't matter if your boss is a jerk. I mean, let's be honest. Elon Musk isn't winning any Boss of the Year awards anywhere, unless he's funding the operation himself, which he probably has a few. But the point is, you still don't, if you don't work for him, then you can say whatever the hell it is you want because it's not so much that he's really deleting tweet. I can't remember if any tweets have actually been deleted. I think he's just fired people. Um, and I think if any tweets have disappeared, it's because people may have voluntarily closed their accounts. That's been a thing. But yeah, speaking of people, whether or not they want to work for Musk, so I think it was, let's see when this was. That's one of the things that we want to talk about. So yeah, today, uh, the New York Times posted 2 hours ago that I think it was more than that, but they Musk had sent an email announcement company wide that says that they have until Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern time, to decide if they want to keep working for Twitter or work for Musk. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of fallout comes from that. How many more people leave because they've already laid off half the, or fired, laid off, whatever, half the company, and now there's going to be more because there's people that clearly don't really want to be there now, um, understandably. But so what's going to happen is if they decide to leave, they're actually still going to get 3 months severance, which is really nice of the guy. But he doesn't have to do that. If you quit, you get squat. So the fact that he's given him 3 months severance is more than generous.
I would tend to agree with that. I don't see these employees that want to leave getting that bad or too shabby of a deal to do so. Maybe Elon Musk wants these people to leave. Did that ever occur to anybody that maybe there's a certain part of Twitter that Musk wants people to leave?
Yeah.
Job wise, employee wise.
Well, I mean, everything that I've read and everything that I've heard, I mean, I don't talk to anybody at Twitter, so nothing that I have is going to be like fresh first-hand news, but everything that I've been following, he's not exactly that well liked there. Um, and he's like just generally seen as an idiot. So, um, whether or not he actually is, you know, the jury's still out on
That's
that one.
that judgment falls into the person or persons that work for him actually.
Yeah, and yeah, so like the general consensus that I've seen is they don't think very much of him. So yeah, I expect to see a bunch of people leaving 3 months pay
And do
without
you
a.
think if this happens, where that many people leaves, would it affect the performance of Twitter in any way? I think it would, because 300 people mean a lot to a large company. So, I mean, do you think these people are? I don't know. I mean, like I said earlier, I think it's more or less that maybe Musk wants these people gone.
And I think so too. And so, and he's clearly taking
And
this.
how is this going to affect the company of Twitter if these employees all walk out on him? He's going to be put in a pinch. He's going to have a lot of positions to fill.
Yeah, and so like, but he's taken the whole situation lightly, and so like today he got grilled on Twitter because he made a joke about employees that are that so so what happened was he hired two guys to pretend to be employees,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he and what happened was, so they pretended that he had them to pretend that he was hiring them back, but here's the kicker. He was like, he had posted, welcome back Ligma and Johnson. And so Ligma comes from
It's
a
a
really.
peculiar set of two words there.
Yeah,
If you
well,
depending on how you put them together.
yeah, so just to take away some imagination, if you just put the two last names together with Ligma first, you'll understand the joke behind why Ligma. So obviously this was a fake name to begin with, but yeah, I mean you can look this up and you can see the whole thread. I thought it was really amusing, but yeah, I can see too why people would be annoyed and angry because he's just making fun of the fact that he just fired half the company and now he's making up two fake employees and like, oh well, this is my biggest regret. I shouldn't have fired Ligma and Johnson so they can come back. But it's like it was, comes as no surprise. I mean, we're talking about Elon Musk here that just he's so far away from reality that he doesn't really know. He's in billionaire land. He doesn't know what it's like for the rest of us or any of his underlings. So for him, he's having fun, and some of the things I get it. Some of the stuff he's doing is actually funny, even though it's making some people mad. I mean, I'm laughing at this, but I see the not so funny side of it either. But yeah. So speaking of not being in reality, I guess he's being sued right now over. There's a lawsuit in regards to the Tesla compensation package, and I don't want to bore you with all the details, but so, like a couple of the highlights of this are so of course they asked him, what his role was coming up with the compensation package, and his response was that his focus was on running the company, and went as far as saying he wasn't in any of those meetings. That wasn't his thing. He just, he had his people take care of it, and that's what they did. And so yeah, that's you know, and of course so the lawyer that was cross-examining him actually asked him about his title of Techno King, and his Musk's reply was, "Oh, I think comedy is legal." Because people are just
Gosh.
reading, like, he has fun, like he comes up with these fun little titles for himself, and let's be honest, if you own a company, you can't tell me you haven't at least thought of it. Um, I know I have fun with my own title at my company, but yeah,
And what you don't want is everybody below you to cut up your title and make different variations and names for it. Like at a school I went to, the principal was Mr. Clausen, but when he got his doctoral degree, everybody, they got on the PA and said everybody now had to call him Dr. Clausen. Well, I'd look at it this way: the hell with Dr. Clausen. I'd call him Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget. I would. Yeah.
but yeah, so speaking of titles that he gives himself, when he took over Twitter, he decided to call himself Chief Twit. So I mean, the man clearly enjoys coming up with creative names for himself, and and I wonder how many other titles he's given himself along the years. But like during this, the fun thing here is like during this particular court session, he went as far as saying that he didn't even want to be any of these. Didn't want to be a CEO of any of his companies, and so he's already said that he's going to find a new boss to run Twitter as soon as he can. So essentially, like supposedly next week, they're supposed to announce some really big changes at Twitter.
Well, I'm pretty anxious to hear what they'll be. They ought to be interesting, if you ask me.
Yeah, especially if he's getting ready to loosen the reins. So I don't think he's gonna step down just yet. I think he's got some more time. Like I think he's got a plan in his head and an exit strategy, or it's all just smoke and mirrors, and he's never gonna step down.
No, he may
I
not.
mean,
He may
but
grab the company with full force by the horns. You
yeah,
know.
so that's, because I don't know exactly what the arrangement is, but it's like if it's anything like he's got like what Mark Zuckerberg has for Meta, they can't get rid of him. They can't get rid of Zuckerberg ever. So I don't know if that's the way Musk has it. He probably does, knowing the way he's carefully crafting things, knowing how he loves testing the waters. I'll go as far as to say, hell yeah, he's probably got himself uh, anchored in there pretty damn good.
Okay, well-rounded news stories there, George. You got any more for us?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got something that isn't Twitter or Elon Musk
Musk
related.
related. Okay, I am anxious to hear this news.
So this is so there's some woman somewhere that made a comment about how she can work 4 remote jobs at the same time and make $60 an hour. And then somebody else is like, no wonder I can't find one. And yeah, so this is uh, uh, something I've been familiar with for a long time. I've never done it. I've had remote jobs, but I've never tried to stack them on top of each other and run them at the same time. Um, First off, the jobs that I got, it wouldn't have worked.
Mind you, I'm currently learning something new.
But so what it is there's certain types of jobs where especially with remote. So, like in a typical office setting, if your uh, boss is down the hall, he can watch what you're doing and he knows whether or not you're working. But in a remote setting, that's not so much the case. So, you know, there's companies that flat out will provide you a company laptop, but they kick on the webcam, they enable the mic, and they can spy on you while you're working to figure out just what it is you're doing, just to make sure you're not goofing off or in this case, working, on their clock, doing work for somebody else. And so, but there's a lot of people that are doing this, and I don't have the stones to try it. Um, it's not my cup of tea. Um, but apparently it's working for some people, like $60 an hour, and they're doing four things at once. And the reason is because not every job has to do with, you know, being paid for your labor. It's being paid for your, for what you know. So there are like cybersecurity jobs. There's legit people who work cybersecurity jobs. This is usually 100% work from home, and they might actually only work for like an hour or two every day, and then the rest of it they're just watching a screen so they can sit there and watch Netflix, play with the dog,
Do
play with
whatever
the
they want and get paid $60 an hour.
exactly.
Where do I apply?
I don't know. When I find out, I'll have to let you know.
Exactly. 60
But
bucks an hour does not sound too shabby of pay for me.
oh yeah, so that's pretty much yeah. So and that wraps it up for the news.
And would you believe what is coming up next after a short break is we're going to talk about old game shows and hosts. Some still on, some not still on. When we come back from a little short break, because I got to adjust my headset. We'll be back.
All right, and we are back.
And we are about to set you off in down memory lane, rather, I should say, to these old time game shows that were on years ago, and most importantly, who hosted them. So, we're going to start with talking about Hollywood Squares. Now, there were two hosts that I remember from Hollywood Square. And those two hosts are Tom Bergeron and John Davidson. You know what? To be quite honest with you, I might be wrong on the John Davidson one. I'm not really sure, but Tom Bergeron did have a hand in hosting Hollywood Squares, and it was about this giant tic-tac-toe board where they'd ask you general knowledge trivia questions and give you an answer, and it'd ask if you agreed to the answer or disagreed to the answer. Depending on how you agreed or disagreed, depending on whether you got the answer right or wrong. If you got the answer right, you could put X marks the square or O marks the square. But that was a good show, and there's a lot of good actors, and actresses on that show too that make up the board, the Hollywood Squares board. But Tom Bergeron back in the day, and yeah, I see George has got it up on his screen now, and
Yeah, so we can. Yeah, so that's if you've watched Hollywood Squares or you don't. I mean, this should
that's the
ring
way
a
it
bell.
looked. That's the way it similarly looks today. But I don't think Tom Bergeron or John Davidson has anything to do with it today. So yeah,
No, it's not been around in a long time, but yeah, they ran. It actually ran four different times between 1966 and 2004. Uh, and part of the show was scripted in order to have the celebrities tell jokes and fake answers. And while the gameplay was real and unscripted,
Joan Rivers was good for that.
yeah. So some of the so some of the celebrity regulars: Cliff Arquette, Rich Little, Roddy McDowell, Rosemary, Desmond Wilson, Wally Cox, Florence Henderson, Joan Rivers, and Vincent Price.
And I remember Florence Henderson. She just passed away not too long ago. But let's move on down the line. The next one on the list is Jim Lang. And the only game show that I remember that he had done was the $1 million chance of a lifetime, where you would that has this big, humongous keyboard that you press letters to guess a puzzle, kind of like they do in Wheel of Fortune. But $1 million chance of a lifetime. If the couple wins, they go through 3 steps in an isolation booth round, which is the last round of the show, and they have to guess words as letters slowly fill in. Now they're told that if they let too many letters fill in they'd never make it. So they would have to use their head on what the word was before all the letters filled in on their own. But after the last step, that couple won 1 million smackaroos. And believe me, they'd have security guards standing around this big punch bowl looking thing full of stacks of money. And I'm like, do you think if somebody was going to come out of the audience or whatever and storm that those two guards are going to get them or subdue a crowd? I seriously doubt that. But Jim Lang hosted that, and he's passed away now. So it was a good game show. I liked it. It was short lived, but also awesome.
Let's see if we can't find a picture of that.
There is pictures online. I did look at it, and that's what it is there. It's the pictures, and you know maybe I might be that's in black and white, but that's look at that big bowl of cash, and it's just astounding. And you wonder, is that cash actually real? Is that cash actually real? I don't know. But we got to move along because we're, short of time this show because the news ran over. But we're going to talk about Pat Sajak. And can't forget Vanna White. They are the stars of Wheel of Fortune. Now, Wheel of Fortune has changed over the years. I remember back when the day when prizes would rotate on these big turntables and you'd use your money you won to buy the prizes you wanted.
Yeah.
They don't do that no more. But Vanna White, she's still good looking at 65, 70 some years old. I'm not sure how old she is, but Let me tell you a little fun fact about Vanna White. Vanna White got noticed when she was a contestant on The Price is Right. Believe it or not, Vanna White was a contestant on The Price is Right, which is how CBS Television City noticed her. I don't know if that's all exactly accurate or not, but I do know she was noticed when she was a contestant on The Price is Right. Now, Pat Sajak, I heard he was a meteorologist or originally educated as a meteorologist or weatherman, and he did wonderfully on Wheel. In fact, he still does Wheel. So, some of these game shows are still going, some are history. All right, let's move on and talk about the whammies on Press Your Luck. The show would always start. These three players are after big bucks, but they'll have to avoid the whammy when they play the most exciting game of their lives, and believe me, it had to have been. It's time to press your luck. Peter Tamarkin starred on that show as the host. But let me tell you a little bit about Peter Tamarkin. Peter Tamarkin was a Lifeline pilot. Lifeline pilots take sick people to where they need to go. They move organs from the donor to the recipient. I mean, they're pilots that use their own plane and fuel and time to make sure people that are really sick get the care they need. And that's what he was awesome at. But that's also how he died. He died when his aircraft that he was flying, the engine stalled out and he crashed. He started having problems with his engine and he turned back to go to UCLA Medical Center Hospital. He didn't make it back. He crashed in Santa Monica Bay, so he's gone now. But we got two more to talk about. Let's talk about not Wayne Brady, but Monty Hall on the show Let's Make a Deal. Well, you know what? If you see, there's a guy, going back to the pressure luck thing, I'm sorry about that. I didn't know you were still on that screen, but somebody won over $100,000 by cheating the board on that game show. But let's talk about Monty Hall and Let's Make a Deal, where everybody in the audience dressed up in some kind of weird costume. I've seen dominoes, I've seen dice, I've seen gypsies, I've seen general people dressed up as everyday other people like policemen, firemen, whatnot, And people would make these weird and zany deals on television with Monty Hall. And believe me, the show is awesome with Monty Hall. It's also awesome with Wayne Brady, but not as awesome. And now, since this stupid pandemic took over and ravaged everything, the show does it the pandemic style, where they're teams, and these teams have to work. I quit watching The Price is Right, and I quit watching Let's Make a Deal when they changed all this crap around that they did. But because I think that what they did to those two shows are going to kill them off. I think it's what it will. But that's Let's Make a Deal with Monty Hall. Let's go down and talk a little bit about Bob Barker. He was on two game shows, but before he ever got into broadcasting, he was a fighter pilot in the United States Navy. I think he was shot down over the European theater or somewhere. I'm not really sure, but he was shot down. He was taken POW for a while. And the man is 98 years old, and he is still going. Now, I don't want to jinx him, but he's still going. And he was the host of Truth or Consequences and The Price is Right. I believe I remember seeing the first ever episode of The Price is Right on TV at my babysitter's house. And it had to have been back in 79, because in 79 is what I believe was the first year of The Price is Right. I'm not too sure, but if you look at videos from back that far, the studio's kind of a dark like studio. Everything's kind of like dark. Nothing bright or nothing, just dark. But now the studio, and like I said, like Let's Make a Deal, they don't have a full audience no more. They have teams in there now, and they just chopped it all to hell. It's a show that's going to go out in no time flat. But Bob Barker, let me tell you a little bit more about him. He made a book when he retired, And the name of the book is called Priceless Memories. It's by Bob Barker himself, and there was another guy that collaborated with him on it. So he co-wrote the book with Barker. But it's a book that I heard is awesome to read, and I still want to read it, even though I don't like to read. But last but not least, we're going to talk very briefly about Bob Eubanks. I'm not really sure if he was with the Love Connection or Card Sharks. I'm not too sure about that. If you want accurate information, just look at it. Just look online. I'll have to. I should not even mention his name because I'm not sure. He's done several gigs, but I'm thinking it was the Love Connection and Card Sharks, but I'm not too sure. But now we're going to take another BREAK, and when we come back, we're going to talk for the rest of the time of the show about famous old and new candy and confections when we come back here on Georgia Geek Hub.
That's gonna be yummy.
Go.
All right, and we are back on to candy.
And candy indeed. Now, there is so many types of candy out there. There is so much to choose from. There's so but people, it does only one thing for you. It puts holes in your teeth called beavers, cavities, tooth decay, whatever you call it.
But it
That's what it
tastes so
is.
good.
That's why when I go to my mom and I talk to her about candy, I said, "Give me some of your teeth rotting material." She goes, "I'll be anxious to help it out." She gives me all this candy that nobody else in the family wants anything to do with. And I don't think I have candy corn on my list, but I will give candy corn some credit of mention here in a little bit. But we're going to start with the first one. And George probably definitely remembers Fun Dip,
Mhm.
where you got not two like you do today. You get two flavors plus the little lick of sugar stick in there. But you used to get three flavors. I think it was cherry, grape, and lemon lime or something. I don't know. It's one of three, and they came in pouches that you tore the top off the pouch, and you lick this sugar stick thing,
Mhm.
and you know that's what it's made out of because that's what it tastes like. It's sugar, sugar all the way through. And you just sit there and dip it up in there, whip it around in there, get it spittled, and get that powdery shit on that lick a stick. And believe me, it'll send you soaring when you pucker up to the. Now, somebody said, I don't know if they had a sour kind version of that, but the only sour candy I know of are, well, oh my gosh, Sour Patch Kids. That's
Oh
that's the
yes.
oh those they get sour. And there's these little round things that look like jawbreakers, and that's even on my list.
Warheads.
Warheads. That's what it was. That's the most sour tasting candy I've ever put in my mouth. It makes me pucker up like I'm getting ready to kiss a dinosaur's ass.
I remember when I was in high school, they were pranks we'd pull on people. Oh, here, try this candy out. It's real good.
Oh my God, they stick it in their mouth and they just go, "Ew." They look like Mr. Yuck after a good day of it.
Oh my god, got people good with
But
that.
you know what? Fun Dip was awesome, and it was kind of the most priciest thing at a concession stand next to Big League Chew bubble gum. But let's move along and let's talk about nerds. Nerds. Nerds are these little sugary, oh, what do I want to call them? Pieces. Sugar,
They're
like
like little
tiny.
tiny pellets.
Exactly. Pellet. Like tiny pieces of sugar that are candy coated with either a sour coating or some kind of lip puckering substance that makes it worthwhile when you lick it off and then you taste the sweet, sugary substance.
Mhm.
And Nerds had so many different flavors. I remember grape. I remember strawberry. I remember cherry. I don't think I remember lemon, lime, or anything like that, but I do remember watermelon was the green flavor. And
Mm.
I think even sour apple was another one. But you know what? Maybe I might just get me a pack of nerds so I can find out more about how nerds are today. And like I said, Fun Dip is still available today, and so is Nerds Candy. Fun Dip is awesome, and so was Nerds. They both had the same main ingredient called sugar, 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 which rots out your teeth in no time flat. But while he's looking up information on nerds, and oh, by the way, this is what gets me. It's made by Willy Wonka. Now, there is a movie from the 1970s called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Is this where this company got their name from, or did the movie get the name from the candy company? I mean, it's hard to depict
It's a
that, but
good question.
we are going to talk about some other candy made by Wonka here in a few minutes.
And I don't think they made the Oompa Loompas happen either.
No, they did not. And they
No.
did not make anything that tasted like a baked potato. That's not candy, that's baked potato.
And if they ever made a candy that tasted like a snozberry, they'd be in prison.
Exactly. Number 3 on the list are the everlasting gobstoppers. That's another one made by Wonka. And what those are these color changing jawbreakers that when you put them in your mouth, they're one color, but yet as you suck on them, they change different colors. So you suck on a brand new one for 5 minutes and it's yellow. When you spit it out in the palm of your hand, it'll be orange. You put it back in your mouth, suck on it for another 5 minutes, and then it'd be green, and then it'd be red. But these darn things, you pop them in your mouth, they're barely crunchable because I'll tell you what, with a child's soft teeth, probably couldn't handle them. But let me
No.
tell you a little bit about this gobstopper here. Now, I am under the impression by watching the 70s movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory that this gobstopper was originally shaped into a jack. The gobstopper on the movie, I'm just going to leave it in that. In the movie, was shaped like a jack. Yeah, just like you see right there on the screen. Yeah, that's the everlasting gobstopper. That's probably a movie prop.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it was
But it
shaped
looks
into a
cool
jack.
though.
They do look cool, and it's just like now those depending on how you lick them, all the color is going to disappear.
Yeah.
Everlasting gobstoppers are never an old candy to love. So let's move along to number 4 because we got 15 of them to get through. Penny candy. Now, this is the type of candy you would get down at a local candy store. Actually, a specialty candy store would probably make penny candy more for the youth and the young because when kids would earn their allowance, they'd go down and spend their money at the dime store. And dime stores sold penny candy an awful lot. And penny candy, let me just describe it a little bit to you. It's like drops that, like an eyedropper comes down and drops it and it dries on a piece of paper. It's when you're a stoner or an acid freak, it's called a tin strip. They don't sell that in a candy store. Trust me, they just do not. But penny candy was
Damn.
awesome because it was dirt cheap and very, very satisfying. Moving right along, and George probably remembers this, is rock candy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, whoever would want to get into the business of rock candy, it's cheap. All you need are swizzle sticks about this long, little wooden sticks. And all you need is a little bit of string or thread and some patience and a lot of sugar and water. You can definitely make rock candy. You can use food coloring to make it blue, red, yellow, whatever. The candy stores sell it different colors because they think that they're different. They want the customer to think they're getting a different flavor. But really, they're not. But if you look at this picture here, that is what rock candy looks like. And like I said, the different colors I think are just food coloring because I don't think it's flavored because it's all you use is pure sugar for them.
Yeah, that's like every time I had it, it was just sweet, but the colors are cool.
Exactly. They kind of tasted like nerds without the candy shell on them. All right, let's move right along to number 6. Now it does say famous old and new candy and confections. I would not consider what I'm about ready to say as a candy, but a confection are turtles. Okay, actually we'll nail 2 of them in one. Turtles and clusters. Turtles can have pecans, walnuts, peanuts, caramel, chocolate, all the ingredients put in to make an awesome tasting truffle. The nuts is what says it all in all this. The turtles and the clusters, either made out of peanuts, walnuts, whatever. Clusters and turtles are a sure pleaser. Now, let's go on to a little bit more of the hard taffy stuff in number 8 called Now and Later. George, do you remember Now and Laters?
It's been a while. Let's look
I
that
remember
up.
Now and Laters, and this other one's on the list too. They're like Starburst. And Now and Laters are very tough taffy. And I've seen kids at school yank out permanent teeth with now and Laters.
Oh wow.
And that's exactly what they look like. They come in different flavors per pack. Different packs have different flavors, But they call them now and laters probably because they last now and later. Because I'll tell you, it's a chore to chew them. I've had them before. I know what they are. So yeah. All right, got 12 more minutes to go, and we're going to talk about number 9, Starburst.
Oh yes.
I remember the catchphrase in the commercial called "The juice is loose." And I'm going to tell you right now, not as hard as now and laters, but Starbursts are a lot softer, and they come in more tastier flavors. And my favorite flavor is strawberry. I know somebody has the favorite flavor of orange or lemon, cherry, whatever. But my favorite was always strawberry.
Yeah.
And I could even go for the red pack where it's strawberry and cherry flavors only. All the other flavors ain't there, But Starburst, the juice is definitely loose in your mouth if you like Starburst.
Yep.
Now let's move along to number 10. Talk a little bit about gummy bears. Now, gummy bears are very opinionated, and I'm going to tell you why. There's so many different brands of gummy bears that you can buy. You can buy the gold bears from the Haribo company, and I think those are the most awesome tasting gummy bears. But you get any other kind of off brand, and they are very soft, very chewy, but very much not like the real McCoy that makes gummy bears. And like I said, Haribo makes the best gummy bears that I've ever had. And I'll tell you what I tend to stay away from are the gummy worms. I just don't like the image of me eating a worm.
There's like that choke hazard if you're not careful with the gummy worms anyway, because they're so long. Like.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
Well,
surprised
kids, that's something kids could choke on.
I'm surprised more kids.
Well, heck, they
didn't
could choke
actually.
on the gummy bears.
Yeah, but I'm surprised more kids didn't actually choke on the gummy. Now that I think about it, I don't remember ever hearing about kids choking on that. But how?
Yeah. How do they do it?
They choked on everything else but the gummy worms. Don't put that in your
All
mouth.
righty, moving from gummy bears to number 11. George, you've heard of these, I bet you. Large jawbreakers. And we'll go from
Ooh.
large as in the atomic fireball size to the really
Oh.
large baseball size ones that you have
Whoa.
to bust up to eat. Or you can just take it like an apple and lick and lick and lick until you exactly you
Here,
lick
let me
these
pull this up. Yeah.
until they get down so far that you can actually stick them all the way in your mouth.
Look
Now
how big this
these
thing is. Look how big that is.
exactly that thing you could bust out a windshield in a car with. I mean, talk about vandalism with jawbreakers. Now,
Yeah, that's a story.
well, yeah,
How
we got kids up here that throwing jawbreakers at cars, and they're gonna look the they're gonna look at you like what? The
Yeah.
person calling, yeah, there's kids throwing jawbreakers at cars. But I mean, you look at the size of that thing. That thing you couldn't even stick it in your mouth.
No.
Like I said, you'd have to bust it up and eat it that way, or just like I said,
Yeah, let's look at this one more time, because how look, you'd have to
lick
like,
it a
You got a
1,000
hammer?
times.
Do you have a hammer? I mean, that's what you need to eat that is a hammer. Like, you gotta have a hammer for that.
Yeah. Or just wrap it up in a rag and slam it on a concrete floor.
or yeah.
The large jawbreakers was made number 11, and I'm glad I talked about that because I remember I had one when I was a kid once. It
How
took
long
me
did it-
forever to eat it. Number 12, the one and only gumdrops. Now, gumdrops come in different flavors, and the flavor that I really am not fond of in gumdrops is the licorice flavored ones. But I like the berry flavored ones. I even like the green spearmint, I think, flavored ones. But usually gumdrops are a candy and confection of Christmas time. For some reason, I just associate that. Now,
Yeah, there they are, right there.
you look at, or I was going to put orange slices on the list, but I figured that those are gumdrops too, orange
They are.
flavored
They really
gumdrops.
are.
So that's why I summed it up as
It's just a
gumdrops.
different shape, but it's the same candy. It's just, yeah,
Yeah, gumdrops are
delicious.
either Christmas or just sitting in a candy dish waiting for any strange person to walk by and grab.
Yep.
All right, moving right along to number 13. And George probably remembers this one called Pop Rocks,
Oh my
where
gosh.
you pour
Yes.
the bag of them, rip the bag, pour them into your mouth, and they'd go pop, 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 pop.
You know, you can actually hurt yourself with.
You know what? I've heard stories about this candy.
Oh yeah.
I've heard stories that this candy, I don't want to say they took it off the market because I think you can still get
Oh,
it.
you can still
But
get
I
them.
don't think the popping sensation is prominent in the new ones as they were in the old one. Because I remember in school I'd pour one and you could feel it popping on your
Oh, I
tongue. Pop, 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 pop,
know.
pop, 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 pop. And if you took a swig of soda and swallowed it, that made you
Made it
burp.
worse.
That made it
Yeah.
worse. Oh God, yes, made you burp like anything.
Now, as an aside, since we're adults here, like I've heard stories of women putting it down there and having to go to the ER because the popping actually did
Did something
something.
to her.
Yeah, I don't
I
like
heard
if
that. Yeah,
you want to Google it, find out. I didn't read too much more than it caused the doctor trips, and that is a stupid. You know what?
exactly.
It's supposed to go in your mouth, not yeah.
Yeah. All right, number 14 that made the list is ring pops. The original plastic ring you wore on your finger that had a diamond stone shape lollipop on the end of it. Look up at the. He's bringing the pictures up here real quick, like to
They
show
kept
you what.
kept
Yeah,
finding the ones
that
with the
exactly.
packaging.
And you know what? They
Oh
don't look
wait,
that nice these days anymore.
oh
They just
wait,
don't.
we gotta go with this picture here. Hold
Okay,
up.
that one there was is that's
So
awesome.
here's how to like propose, I guess.
Proposing on a budget.
Yes, diamonds are expensive, but
But you
pop
know
rocks
what?
are forever,
The
right?
ring pop was always awesome because you could wear it. And you could give one to anybody you wanted to give it to. It didn't mean love. It didn't mean marriage. It didn't mean proposal, but it meant something
It meant their
when
blood sugar wasn't
somebody
dropping.
gave you a ring pop.
Uh-huh. Those were so fun.
All right. The last on the list, and hopefully we got enough time to talk about it, is the one and only Laffy Taffy.
Ooh, yes.
The best taffy money could buy. Better than saltwater taffy that you buy at Six Flags in St. Louis or Gurney. But I'm telling you right now, Laffy Taffy was the most awesome taffy that was hard to put down when you started eating it.
Oh, I
And
know.
the banana flavored and the strawberry flavored, as you can see in the picture over here, were the best two flavors that I've ever had. Now, if you went to this candy store in Bloomington, I think it's in Bloomington, Illinois, the company that makes Laffy Taffy, Nestle Bike and Company makes it. I believe they do. Well, they did. Let's put it that way. I'll leave it to that as they did because they'd sell packs of Laffy Taffy in this candy store, and they were squares, and they were big squares, and they were big squares with big flavor. And like I said, strawberry and banana were my two picks. I don't know what it is with. I mean, I like candy that's banana flavored, watermelon flavored, or strawberry flavored. But if you'd like to let us know what your favorite candy is or what we should talk about, George will leave you some information on how to email the show. But like I said, we're winding probably down on time right about now. Yes, we are. We are winding down on time. I'm glad you stuck around to hear us talk about old game shows and hosts. We did do that.
Yep.
And the second part of the show, famous old and new candy and confections, right here on George's Geek Hub.
All right, and we'll see you next week. And I'll leave some info below that you can use to reach out